Greetings to you in the name of God our Creator and of His Son, Jesus Christ, our crucified and risen Lord. My hope is that everyone who is joining us today, members, friends, and others who may be tuning in, are staying safe and healthy and are finding creative ways to maintain those social bonds that are so necessary for our well-being. The members of our pastoral care team and I have tried to stay in phone contact with all of our members. If you have not received a phone call yet, please give me a call. My number is listed at the back of the bulletin you received by email this Sunday, and we'll make sure to establish that connection. On the front of the bulletin, you will see printed a territorial acknowledgement expressing our gratitude to the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh nations for their stewardship of the lands upon which we usually gather. Today, I also want to acknowledge the land upon which I live, the traditional territory of the Tsawwassen First Nation, and express my thanks for their stewardship of these lands and the adjoining waters of the Fraser River and the Salish Sea. This year is the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day, which is celebrated on April 22nd every year. We have designated this third Sunday of Easter as Earth Day Sunday. As so much of our human activity comes to a halt right now due to the measures we have taken to contain the pandemic, you've probably noticed how the natural world has come to life in unexpected ways. Clearer water, cleaner air, more abundant wildlife. Even as we struggle in these days with maintaining a sense of equilibrium in conditions of isolation, or perhaps feeling overwhelmed with sadness and helplessness in the aftermath of the horrific tragedy and loss of life in Nova Scotia. Nevertheless, Easter has come. Christ is risen. We place our hope in the God of creation and the God of new creation, the Spirit who brings life out of death and who brings life in unexpected places and in unexpected ways. This year also marks the 41st commemoration of the Shoah, the name given by the Jewish people for the annihilation of 6 million Jews by the Nazis during the Second World War. The Christian-Jewish Dialogue of Montreal invites Christian churches to take part in the 41st Christian commemoration of the Shoah on this Sunday. We have included a video link to a prayer to mark this occasion in the intercessory prayers. The accompanying rite in the prayer is inspired by Judaic liturgical practice. This worship at home service begins with a thanksgiving for water and baptism, accompanied by video scenes along Mackay Creek, which runs through Murdo Fraser Park to the north and west of our church location. In addition to hymns sung by Sonia Koruga, we have also included a hymn sung by National Bishop Susan to commemorate Earth Day. Easter, a celebration of our new life in Christ, is closely associated with the sacrament of baptism. Just as Christ descended to the tomb and was raised, when we descend into the waters of baptism, we die to sin and are born anew. God raises us from the waters of baptism into the new creation of the reign of God. Earth Day, at least for Christians, is also associated with Easter, if for no other reason that it always seems to fall just before or just after Easter. This association of both baptism and Earth Day with Easter prompted me to reflect on the day through the lens of our baptism. As Easter people whose life in Christ begins at baptism, how does our baptism inform our relationship to our planetary home? Water, the material substance used as a sign of God's grace in baptism, is drawn from that same water upon which all living things depend for survival. Poets and songwriters have imagined the rivers, streams, and underground aquifers that crisscross and wind their way around the planet as the lifeblood of the planet. One songwriter described them this way: these flowing, living waters pulsing through the veins of earth. It struck me that I have never, until just a few days ago, made the association that the water used as a sign of God's grace in baptism is drawn upon the same water upon which all living things depend for survival. Of course, I understood this in a vague sort of way, but not in the real concrete terms. The fact that the water which congregations and parishes all across the North Shore, Anglican, Presbyterian, Baptist, United Church, Roman Catholic, the water that all of these churches use to baptize is the same water that flows in the rivers and streams on the North Shore and which makes its way into Burrard Inlet and the Pacific Ocean. The same water poured on the head or that we immerse in, the water that baptizes men, women, children, and our gender non-conforming siblings into the life and death and resurrection of Christ, is the same water that supports all the animals, fish, birds, plants, and trees and microscopic life that live and die and are born again in the watersheds of the North Shore. What implications does this fact have for our understanding of baptism? How does it inform our sense of ethical responsibility for Earth's ecosystems as followers of Jesus Christ? To help me ponder these questions, I took a walk I went into Myrtle Fraser Park, just to the north and west of Gloria Day's church property. The park sits right in the Mackay Creek watershed. My hope is that the images and sounds which accompany the thanksgiving for water and baptism with which we begin our service today will help you to ponder the significance and the sanctity of water and see the vital interconnection we share with all living things that depend upon it for survival and flourishing. To help create a sense of sacred space, you may want to light a candle as a reminder of the light of Christ, and have a bowl of water nearby to dip your hand or fingers in, perhaps even splash it a little as you ponder the sacramental significance of water. I now invite you to take a few moments now and for us to prepare our hearts for worship.